for your exceptional service over the years. I want to extend my wife and I our appreciation to you and your family and your daughters, and you've done a really, really exceptional job. So you're going to be missed. I hope you don't go very far away. And General, thank you for your continued great service as well. I want to dig into the supplemental a little bit more. I know you've gotten a lot of questions on it, but I ended up supporting that bill. It wasn't perfect. There's a lot of things I didn't like about it, but I did it primarily because if you look at it, it's actually primarily focused about rebuilding our brittle industrial capacity to produce weapons and weapon systems for our own military, for our own defense, and enhance our industrial base, which unfortunately has atrophied. It includes the capacity to produce everything from subs, $3 billion for subs, but with AUKUS, it's actually $6 billion. $6 billion. It's $5 billion for 155 millimeter howitzers, ammo, and it's everything from anti-ship systems, harpoons, tomahawks, harms, switchblades, as all in this. 60% of this bill goes to building our industrial base. So with that, would our military in Taiwan's and our industrial ability to deter a war in the Taiwan Strait be enhanced by passing this defense industrial bill?
Yes, Senator, absolutely, and I appreciate the support of you and the Congress to identify those needs, again, both whether they for Ukraine or directed towards the Indo-Pacific. As you point out, that bill absolutely supports the increased industrial base requirements for ships, submarines, weapons, and other things, critically important.
In general, on the Korean Peninsula as well? I mean, $5 billion for 155 millimeter howitzer rounds produced in America, that's not insignificant.
Yes.
And then, so without it, you think we'd have less deterrence in the Taiwan Strait and the Korean Peninsula?
The funding in that bill is absolutely critical.
General?
Yes, Senator.
You know, one criticism of the defense supplemental is it does not prioritize the correct demand signal for the threats we face, including in the Indo-PACOM theater. I find it a little curious, since I work directly with you and your team, Admiral, to shape the bill to give you the weapon systems that you think you need. I would say you're probably the most expert person probably in the world on what you need to deter a war in the Taiwan Strait. So you think that criticism is accurate, that it doesn't hit the correct demand signal that you need, since you shaped the bill? I know that for a fact, since we worked.
Senator, from my review, again, as it applies to the items I've required or asked for in the independent assessment for 3 years, 1254 last year and a 1302 this year, that bill absolutely gets after my requirements.
And another one of the views of some of the critics is that we shouldn't focus on assisting Ukraine because that takes away from defending and deterring a war in the Taiwan Strait. So Putin can roll over Ukraine, but will be strong in the Taiwan Strait. Does deterrence work that way, in your experience?
No, sir. As I've testified, the global threats are inextricably linked.
So deterrence isn't divisible. You can't be strong in the Taiwan Strait but let an authoritarian roll over someone we're trying to support in another part of the world. Do you think that works?
No, sir.
General, do you think that works that way? Deterrence, it's divisible. We'll be strong here but weak over there, but everything's going to be good?
No, Senator. The world's getting smaller, not larger.
Let me ask one final question, and it goes to this administration's focus on these issues. Admiral, you have, I think, done a great job in this bill, so thank you again. But you've been talking about overmatch. You've been talking about trending in the wrong direction. You just said we haven't faced a threat like this, that's China, since World War II. To me, this is the 1930s all over again. Authoritarian dictators are on the march. They're very aggressive. We've seen this movie before. The big difference is in the late 30s and early 40s, before Pearl Harbor, President Roosevelt undertook a massive rebuilding of our military, tripled the size of the U.S. Navy. A lot of people don't know that. By December 1941, we had actually tripled the size of the U.S. Navy. So we are on the way. Unfortunately, this administration and this president are putting forward budgets that shrink the Navy year after year. President Biden recently in the State of the Union said, hey, this is a really dangerous world. I'm like President Roosevelt. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's going in the exact wrong direction. He's shrinking the Navy, shrinking the Army, shrinking the Marine Corps. This budget pushes the building of a new carrier by 2 years. As Senator Blumenthal mentioned, it goes to 1 sub a year, which nobody thinks is a good idea. So what kind of message do you think, as we're talking about deterrence, to Xi Jinping or Putin, a Biden administration budget, third year in a row, that shrinks the military, shrinks the Navy, is sending to our adversaries? And I know it's a difficult question for you, but did you support a budget that pushes the carrier industrial base building out and brings us down to 1 sub a year, which, again, nobody on this committee thinks is a good idea?
Yeah, Senator, as I've laid out to the committee, my view of the threat, and it's increased both capability and capacity with no signs of slowing down. I certainly have advocated for a couple things. Number one, no reduction in combat power from the Indo-Pacific theater.
But are you being overmatched right now?
Right now, again, I am confident in our forces that in crisis or conflict now, the United States would prevail, but the trend's going in the wrong direction. So I have advocated for increased capability, the modernization we need, and the capacity we need to maintain overmatch.
One final question. You mentioned 7% increase. I agree with you of the Chinese budget. It's probably much more. We had a hearing with the DNI and the DIA Lieutenant General. It was classified, but I'm going to say what they said because they've not gotten back to me. They actually said they thought it was over $700 billion. I've asked them to come and help make that public and explain it. Really important for the people of this country to know. $700 billion from the Chinese probably, or maybe more. They've never gotten back to me, so if the DNI or the DIA director, they're listening, they should get back to me on this, make this public. Do you have an estimate of what they're producing, either of you, annually? And I know they say 7% is probably double that. What do you think?
Yes, and I don't know if I have an estimate. Again, I don't know if it's even worth comparing, right? The issue is what's coming off the assembly line, and it's significant at 10 warships, high-end warships alone this year. Jeez. Cruisers, destroyers, full rate production for J-20s, increased missile systems, satellite systems. To me, that's the metric.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Warren, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you two are no strangers to the threat that cryptocurrency poses to our national security.